So what is the difference between a nation and a state? The first terminology you studied about what is a nation and what is a state. What is the difference between the two? Nation. Okay, nation is nothing but a emotion or a common identity. It might be based on culture. Culture includes what? Language, religion, ethnicity, etc. State basically is what? State is basically represents political authority. Okay. So state has four components. What is it? Territory, population, sovereignty, as well as government. And what is a government and what is the difference between a state and government? State is permanent, government changes every 5 years. It depends upon what political system it is followed. And government has certain functions to perform, such as law and order, etc., providing goods to the people or services to the people at large. And in India, who is the head of the state? Because we have dual heads. It is the president. Who is the head of the government? It is the prime minister. And that will go into later, how president is elected, etc. Then when you come to the different types of states, which we said, one you have monarchical state. What do you mean by a monarchical state? The head of the state is basically not elected, but he comes from the family or like a king, prince, etc. Example, Britain, right? The head of the British state is the queen, which is it. They do have a prime minister, that is the head of the government. Now, why, like in America and if you take Britain, the difference is that British and Indian system is similar. Okay, means both countries are parliamentary form of governments, but still we have not gone into the concept of parliamentary form of government. America, if you take, it is a presidential system of government. One of the major difference between a parliamentary and a presidential system is that in a parliamentary system there is dual heads. Okay, there are two heads. One, the head of the state. The other is the head of the government. They are separate. But in presidential system, they are one and the same. Okay, the American president is head of the state as well as he is the head of the government. But the second difference in a parliamentary form of government is that you have in what you can say two houses, right? For example, in India you have Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in that regard, and that is called as the parliament. What we tell, and what is the main function of parliament? It makes laws. The laws ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. It's a legislative body. And who is executive? Andre, if you take any system, right, government system, it has three organs. One is legislative, the other is executive, the third one is judiciary. So who is legislative in India? Who makes law in India? Andre ಕಾನೂನು ಯಾರು ಮಾಡೋದು ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ? It is the parliament. Who will implement those laws? It is the government. Government means whom? Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. For example, Narendra Modi and his cabinet colleagues were there. Judiciary, that is the Supreme Court and High Court. And this is what we call the concept of separation of powers. Okay, there is one concept called as separation of powers. What do you mean by separation of powers? The political system has separated who should perform what function. So the parliament will make the law, the government will implement the law. Judiciary, what it will do? What is the work of judiciary? To see whether both legislative and executive, they are doing their work as per the provisions of the constitution. Okay. Whenever they don't do work as per provision of constitution, they declare it as unconstitutional in that regard. Why we need to have separation of powers? ಯಾಕೆ ಸೆಪರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಪವರ್ಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು? ಯಾಕೆ ಒಬ್ರು ಕೈಲೇ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪವರ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡೋಕ್ಕಲ್ಲ? ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಥಿಂಕ್, ವೈ ಕಾಂಟ್ ವಿ ಗಿವ್ ದಿ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಲಾಸ್, ಟು ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಲಾಸ್? Why do you think separate? You got the idea, right? Separation of powers means there is each organ which performs one work. Why do you think that we cannot give all the powers into one organ of the government? Monopoly. Okay. Hmm. So if you see that, let us take, I am the person who is taking this class. Okay. Now, if I am the same person who is going to judge whether the class is good or not, there is conflict of interest, right? Because in Kannada there is a gathe, right? Settorge Yajnanu Muddu anta. So whatever you do, you like that it is correct in a way. So if you give all the powers to Parliament itself, they only make the law. And if you tell you only check whether the law is right or correct, there is going to be conflict of interest. That is why there is separation of powers. And separation of powers will bring the check and balance. Right? One organ of the government cannot dominate the other organ of the government. So what happens in India's parliamentary system, in mainly the idea of parliamentary democracy, the executive, that is the prime minister, council of ministers, etc., they're accountable to the parliament. Okay, means they're accountable. Whatever they do, they have to answer to the parliament in parliamentary system. But if you take America's presidential system, there the executive is not accountable to the Senate. Means in India, if you take Narendra Modi and his cabinet colleagues, they can remain in power as long as they enjoy support in Lok Sabha. If they lose support in Lok Sabha, the government will fall. And many times, how they can also ask questions to the executive. You have something called as question hour. If you are following news in COVID times, you can see they suspended question hour. Right? What is question hour? It is the time in the parliament where you can ask question to the ministers in charge. Means if the other opposition party, they want to know what is happening in the government, there was attack on India on Chinese side of the border, so you can ask question to the defense minister asking what is happening, and he is accountable to it, you have to give an answer. And you have many parliamentary committees who are there who will investigate many cases into the executive decisions. Okay, so this is one of the fundamental principle of a parliamentary system. But in presidential system, once the president is elected for the next 4 years, nobody can question it. Got the point? And the other thing in Indian parliamentary system is that you cannot appoint anybody as a minister. You have to appoint only those people who are an MP. Okay, MP in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. But can anybody be appointed as a minister without being an MP? Can they be or not? They can be, but it is for just 6 months. Within 6 months, either he or she should get elected or get nominated to Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Understood? For example, if you take our current Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. Jai Shankar, right? Jai Shankar was before Foreign Secretary. Okay. So after his service, he joined the BJP in that regard. He had not contested election. They directly made him a minister and they nominated him from Rajya Sabha. What's the point? So any person can become, or even recent example, if you take Mamta Banerjee in West Bengal election, she lost her seat in Nandigram, right? She lost the election, but she went on to become CM, and later see they vacated one more seat and made her stand from there and win the election. So according to our constitutional process, any person can become a minister, but that is only for 6 months. Within 6 months, either they have to get elected or either they have to get nominated. But in American system, there is no rule that the president has to appoint any person who is member of Senate as there, because he can appoint anybody. Outsiders also can become part of the American Senate. Okay. There is no kind of accountability of the Senate over the executive. So that is one of the major difference between a parliamentary system and a presidential system. But why India chose parliamentary system, what is good in parliamentary system, what are the demerits in parliamentary system, we'll do it once we discuss the parliament chapter. Okay, because these are all basic things. And yeah, monarchical type of government is where the head of the state is not elected, but they come from the family. Britain, example. Republican form of state. What do you mean by that? The head of the state. Example, India is an example of a republican state. America is an example of republican state, because here the head of the state, that is the president in India and president in America, both are elected. Okay, the process of election is different, that we will discuss later, but in simple nutshell, both are elected, they are not from the family. And what do you mean by a totalitarian state? What is meant by a totalitarian state? Is India a totalitarian state? Why India is not a totalitarian state? Hmm? How can you say you are not a totalitarian state? India likes to right to vote. Huh. Okay, let us think. Can we say in a country there is elections? Okay, in a country where there is elections, that country is democratic. How many of you agree with? In whichever country there is elections, such country will be a democratic country. How many of you agree with this statement, or how many of you disagree with this statement? You are getting the point. All those countries which conduct elections are democratic countries. Is it correct or is it wrong? Why it is wrong? We conduct elections, right? We are a democratic country, right? Why they are not democratic? England. Hmm. Hmm. But it is not democratic country. England is not democratic. England is a democratic country, right? Let rules powers differ. The question is simple. Any country which conducts elections is a democratic country. Now she told one example which I agree with her. She told Russia there is elections, but she's saying it is not democratic. My point is that why you are telling it is not democratic? Ideology? Let ideology differ. What is there? One man show. Who is that one man show? Huh. See, forget about caste system and all. The point I agree with her to an extent. What she told. Now let us think a scenario. We'll do the elections in this class. Okay, we'll do an election in this class. The election is out who is the best faculty. But I am the only person who is going to stand in that election. You have no other choice, you have to just vote for me. So, what you can say is that just conducting elections alone is not a criteria for democracy. People should have choices. Now, for example, what she told in Russia, China, etc., here there is only one party system. There is only one political party. Within that political party, they will nominate candidates and you have to select only those candidates, within those candidates. But if you take a country like India, we are a multi-party democracy. You can choose from BJP, you can choose from Congress, you can choose from JDS in that regard, or you can choose an independent candidate. And many times the election should be free and fair, right? If tomorrow if I put a gun point at somebody and tell you have to vote for me, that is also election. But here again you have to question the process of conducting elections. That how do elections take place? So we cannot say that every country which conducts elections is a democratic country because you also have to question the process of elections which is there. So when you look at totalitarian regimes, right? Even in totalitarian regimes there can be elections. Okay, but that elections will be for just for face value. For example, you can take the Indian National Congress in India. Now, many people have questioned how Rahul Gandhi has been elected, right? Because they'll tell where was the alternative, right? You make only 1% stand for the election for namesake, and you tell no, he's our leader. So that is not a democratic way of bringing out. So even in totalitarian regimes, there can be elections, but people do not have choices. They are forced to select, or they are made to vote at certain gunpoint or certain threats which have been issued. And totalitarian governments where there is no freedom of people, there is no individual rights, only the state will dominate. Means whatever the state will tell, people have to listen. Yeah. And totalitarian state is an opposite of democratic state. What is a democratic state? Where individuals have rights, where individuals can question the government. Now, why do we tell India is a democratic country? In spite of various imperfections. Okay, India is not a perfect country. But in spite of various imperfections, you can see that we have checks and balances. For example, sedition charges were filed on many activists, but you can see Supreme Court came to the aid in that regard, right? You had a judicial way to get an offer. Second one, in India, you can question the government, right? Many times you can run, for example, take farm protests. Farm protests have been happening. You cannot imagine farm protest in China. Government will clamp it down. You cannot imagine farm protest in Myanmar because government won't allow you to talk. So in a democracy is that having diverse opinion in place, and you can express your opinion freely in that regard. But however, there are certain limitations. That is where sedition comes into picture. Sedition is a controversial issue that we'll go into later. What is sedition? Why there is sedition laws in India? Should sedition be there or not? That's a different take. That will connect when we come to fundamental rights. That's the point. So totalitarian state is those countries or those states where people do not have any kind of individual freedom. People's choices are subverted to the national interest at large. Okay, China, Russia, North Korea, these are all totalitarian regimes at large where people do not have any freedom. But if you take India, United States of America, Great Britain, etc., these are all democratic states where people do have voices. But does not mean that there is no problem in these countries. There are issues, but the thing is that people can express their opinion. There is strong civil society in these countries. What do you mean by civil society? What do you mean by civil society? Have you heard civil society anytime in newspaper or reading any book? ಇಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳೇ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಸಿವಿಲ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ಸರ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಏನಿದೆ ನೀವು ಹೊಸ ಹೊಸ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರ ನಾವು ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲ it's okay, it happens because even you can see when I started preparing, right, there were many terms which are alien to you, but you need to start to learn these meanings. Yeah, otherwise you won't understand. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅರ್ಥನೇ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಇವ್ರೇನೋ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ, ಇವ್ರು ಯಾರೋ ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದವರೆಲ್ಲ ಜೈ ಜೈ ಅಂತ ಇದಾರೆ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಾನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ. Civil society means if you take NGOs, non-governmental organizations, or if you take civil rights activists who are there. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಜ ಅಂತ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ, if you take as a society, state is part of society. You're getting the point. Society is not part of the state. Right? State and government, etc. Apart from this, there are many organizations who are there who work for the welfare of the society. For example, if you take Narayan Murthy's Infosys Foundation, that is an NGO. Okay, they are doing many social service, but they are not part of the government. In those countries where civil society is strong, means there are certain organizations which can challenge the government or question the state, that we call as a civil society. So it's a very broad term. It includes NGOs, it includes civil rights activists at large. For example, if you take people like Prashant Bhushan, Shanti Bhushan, these are all civil society activists. They fight for, what do you mean by civil society? Civilian rights. Who is a civilian? Citizens. Okay, those who try to safeguard the rights of the citizens. That we call as a civil society. So usually in totalitarian states, there is no civil society. Means civil rights are not at all protected. You are at the mercy of the state. Understood? But in a democratic country, the civil society is very strong. Okay, and especially if you take European and Western countries, their civil society is very strong compared to India and other third world countries.